10 years forward. That's the topic of today's TEDx presentations. The analyses of social norms, political landscapes, and scientific fields in the general time frame of the next 10 years. Today, I want to understand these trends. I want to find out where they lead to, where their ultimate destination is, to find out whether they have a goal to them, and whether or not we can reach those goals. When species evolve, they incrementally augment their features to try and achieve perfection. Yet today, we humans have created an object, more so a phenomenon, that today supersedes biological evolution in both priority and importance to mankind. It demonstrates similar patterns and processes of progression to that of the former, a phenomenon we call society. One can easily see the striking similarities between the two. The incremental developments in different parts that create a constantly changing creature that tries to achieve perfection. Yet, as we know, all species have their faults. A similar line can be drawn towards society, that their ultimate goal, too, is to achieve perfection, to achieve a community where, as would be agreed upon by various realistic thinkers and fictional authors alike, people are provided with healthy challenges and means to overcome them, while still kept at bay from all forms of harm, to add meaning to their lives. A society where there's a healthy cooperation between the people, leading to an operational economy, a functional society, and a high quality of life. A community where the organizational system has a political, religious, and economic ideology that suits everybody, completely fulfills their requirements. A society where the physical environment is not only aesthetically pleasing, but functional as well, providing spaces for recreation, productivity, residential, industrial, and commercial constructions. But is this goal possible? Can we reach such a society? And if we can, how can we find out? As has often been said, to understand the future, we must first understand the past. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing today. Despite its numerous requirements, there have been multiple attempts at creating such a perfect society throughout history. One of the first, if not the first, of these examples would be the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. Here was a society with a physical environment which was aesthetically pleasing but provided shelter, food, and water for its inhabitants. There was no requirement for a large operational system because there were only two people who cooperated together to live. And they were provided challenges. Go up the trees to find food, look in the ground to find vegetables, so that their lives were at least meaningful. It was perfect. However, the society was destroyed when Adam and Eve both had the apple of knowledge of good and evil because they were tempted by a snake to do so. But the thing is, temptation is not a one-way deal. It's something which both parties must be agreeable on. So why would Adam and Eve want to eat the apple even though they were forbidden to do so? That would be because humans are animals. And naturally, animals have a tendency to try and rise to the top of their local food chains. This tendency, this instinct, is what caused Adam and Eve to try and have that apple so they can rise above the simpleness of being equal with the animals, of being equal with vegetation, being equal with the rest of the society. Utopia. Utopia is defined as an imagined place or state of things in which everything is perfect. It's derived from the Greek ou utopos, meaning no place, but its definition more closely lies with the Greek utopos, meaning a good place. This term, of course, was coined by Sir Thomas More in 1516 in his book by the same name, to show that a perfect place is not possible. He presented us with a society based on rational thought, great productivity, communal property, religious tolerance, no discrimination, no crime, no poverty, no social classes. It was, in all terms, perfect, a paradise. But there are two main reasons for which such a society will not be possible to create. The first would be the instinct I recently described, and its extension into today's greed and competitiveness. The second would be the fact that we are all individuals. We are different. We have differing preferences, differing beliefs. Ever since animals have evolved into something that could be defined as a human, we have always wanted to try to climb to the top of the food chain. This extends to today's greed, and this greed is what will cause members of such a society with communal property to try and rise above the equality and create socioeconomic ranks that put them in a position of power, position of wealth. But the more outrageous of the two requirements would be a complete cooperation, no discrimination, no crime. This is because people's experiences shape their preferences and beliefs, and it is those preferences and beliefs which are discriminated against. And in a society of any considerable size, there would be preferences that clash head-to-head, like communism and fascism, communal property and capitalism, atheism and religion. In a society where beliefs exist like these, there would be factions of people who dislike each other because their preferences, their beliefs are different, they clash. And therefore, in a utopia with any considerable size, there would be dislike, there would be discrimination. It would dissolve into a regular society. But perhaps the most prominent example of a perfect society would be that of communism, developed by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels on the 21st of February, 1848. They defined communism as the antithesis to capitalism, capitalism itself being an economic ideology based on the private ownership of the means of production and distribution of goods, characterized by a free competitive market and motivation by profit. This, of course, is useful towards the economy because it uses humans' greed, humans' want for profit, and it uses that to motivate them to try and improve the economy. It allows for individualization, for people to earn monetary rewards based on their efforts in their work. But it also leads to the definition and spreading of social classes. It leads to discrimination through classism, and this is where it lacks. Karl Marx himself defined two different social classes. The first was the proletariat, the working class. Here, the people, due to a perverse childhood, owned only their ability to work and could sell only their labor. This led to a perverse adulthood, and therefore a continuing self-fulfilling cycle of poverty from generation to generation. However, there was also the bourgeoisie, the rich business class, upper class men who had a fulfilling education during their childhood due to wealth. And due to that, they would grow to earn more money than their parents, creating a much different self-fulfilling cycle where they would continuously increase their monetary wealth from generation to generation. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels' communism sought to solve that problem by removing social classes and adding communal property. This would allow for the same education, same salary, same jobs, same housing to be given to everyone, but still with enough individuality. The people would be able to work together to build facilities, improve the economy, improve technology for the betterment of the society. It would be a joint force under the banner of a country. But as we know, the two largest communist countries, they failed. In communist China, it's no longer communist. In the USSR, well, that country no longer exists. Common property soon led to a common state of poverty, except for the elite few closest to the supreme leader of these countries. It was a case as described in The Animal Farm, a book representing the USSR, of all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Why did these societies fail? That would be due to greed. Greed caused Mao Zedong to try and purge 1.5 million impure people out of China by executing them, just so he could keep his seat as the chairman of the People's Republic of China after his great leap forward failed. Greed is what caused Stalin to use underhanded techniques to drive his political opponents out of the USSR, turning the peaceful communist state into a war-inclined totalitarian nightmare that required a de-Stalinization to clean up. So far, we've recognized that there are two main reasons for which a utopia cannot exist: greed and individuality. But there's another fictional work that provides a different perspective on utopia, but gives us the same results. That would be The Giver by Lois Lowry. It described a society with white picket fence houses, lush gardens outside, a functional government and economy that was never power-hungry or corrupt. It was, by all regards, perfect. Too perfect. And that's what we realize when its main character, Jonas, earns the job of the receiver of memories. Here he discovers what the society was like before it converted itself into sameness. He discovers emotion. He discovers color. He discovers the beauty of the world before everything became the same. He understands that his society functions so much like a well-oiled machine because it was not run and lived in by people, but rather machines. It was a closed factory with no inputs, no outputs, not a utopia. From these analyses, we have recognized that there are two main primary reasons for which a utopian society cannot exist. The first would be the natural tendency to try and rise to the top of the local food chain, which has now become competitiveness, greed. It causes us to try and earn more power, more money, more knowledge than an equal society would lend us. And the second would be individuality, the fact that everybody is different. It would lead to factions to be created within a utopian society that would fight against each other, that would not cooperate. But is it really a bad thing that we will never be perfect? Because we will always be competitive. We'll always try and have a better economy, more technology, more comforts, more luxury. Make our society better. And we'll always be different. There will always be factions, reasons for which people are divided, and we'll try to prove that another group is worse than us by improving ourselves, whether that be separated by school, company, religion, country, or socioeconomic ideology. And while we may never be perfect, we will always strive to be the best we can be. Thank you.